those who don't know, what is emotional intelligence? Take us through a little bit about it.
Oh my goodness. It is the ability to be able to use, manage, understand your emotions in a healthy manner.
There I was, an upcoming HR professional. I was flying high, scoring. I was even deemed the best HR of the year.
Guys, I'm so happy to be here. We addressed some hard things.
Welcome to A Glimpse of Growth with Dr. Dale. You are in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing with the right person. Thank you for being here. Welcome to January 15th, 2025. If you are here with me, I pray and hope and manifest that you are blessed or you're feeling blessed. And if you don't feel it now, give it a few more hours, a few more days, and you will feel better. Okay? So, our conversation today, before we get started, can I just say I feel good? I feel blessed to be here with you on this day at this time. You guys know I'm in South Florida. It feels good to be alive and well and healthy and doing good. I know 2025, and I'll just say for me, 2025 came in kicking and screaming. I just said that with I just said that with our guest today. We were talking about that, and it ain't no joke. It came in here punching. And if it came in here punching just like it did for you, for me, then all I can say, at least we're in this together, because life be lifing, and what we're not going to do is complain and do the victim mentality thing, because that's not what we do here, especially in 2025. We got too much to do. Right? So with that being said, our conversation today is about becoming an HR warrior in 2025. For those that don't know what HR stands for, it's human resources. It's not the people that fire you. Please stop saying HR is all they do is fire you. No, that's not what we do. We do more than that, okay? It's a group of individuals that manage the employee's life cycle from the start all the way to the very end, okay? From the hiring to maybe it's not time for you. Maybe it's time for you to not be here anymore and go off into another company or do your own thing, okay? So with that conversation, I have a guest for you guys today. I always say that the guests are special because everybody is special and everybody brings something unique to this conversation. Their experiences, their lived experience, their personal experience, their professional experience, their capabilities, their skills, their thought process, their backgrounds, they bring all of themselves, and we love it all up in here in A Glimpse of Growth. We love it all. So with that being said, I met this young lady last year. She started working with me as it relates to getting her HR certification, and we call it, the certification is with the governing body SHRM, and that's Society for Human Resources Management. And I work with her, and she taught me so much, and it was very inspiring to see from day one to day end and her journey. So I'm just gonna bring her up, let her tell the story, her story, at least this chapter of her story, right? And how she started, from human resources, and then deciding to get her certification, and then, where she is today. Elizabeth Redwood. I'm gonna bring her up and she'll give you a mini mini intro about herself so we can get this started. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk with you and talk about this journey that we've been on together. It's exciting. Um, like
It
Dale
is.
said, my name is Elizabeth. I'm a HR champion, DEI consultant, lifelong learner, and facilitator with a focus on immigrant populations. I met Dale last summer. I really needed accountability, and meeting Dale, learning about my own emotional intelligence setbacks, and the tools that she taught me built a lot of confidence and was a huge part of my success with the SHRM exam.
Oh my goodness. So, if you were thinking, if you're out there and you're like, should I do the SHRM certification? Should I do any certification? Should I invest in myself? And I can't remember who said it, but any investment in yourself is never wasted. Would you agree, Elizabeth?
100%. It's a huge investment, obviously, but you are investing in yourself.
When you decided, so tell us the thought process before we get into, because Elizabeth is going to share three three bullet points with us, um, to help us understand her journey and her, how she came to being successful in this, certification, right? um, and with that being said, give us your thought process. What made you decide to do your certification? Because there are a bunch of HR people out there, right? That that don't have their certification and they've been HR for years. Like, why? What made you decide to do it?
I think working in the field gave me the confidence to take the next step in the HR certification, and choosing a pathway, which certification you want to take is also another discussion and another portion of time you have to think about, like, what are the skills that this certification will teach me? And SHRM hit all those bullet points for me. And I also think that the toolbox and strategies that SHRM offers is something that you can take within any industry. And being new in the HR world, I really wanted that freedom to be able to pivot.
What were your initial fears? You're like, oh, now I'm deciding to do this. Oh, I've never done this before. What were your fears, your hesitation? Like, what was that for you? Give me that thought process.
I mean, going back, sorry, to the
You're fine.
investment
You're fine.
piece, combine the cost of the test itself along with the study materials or like the prep course. I mean, that's a huge investment. It's almost 2 grand. So the major root of the fear I was feeling was, will this be all for nothing? My job, obviously, well, gratefully, they covered the cost, which I'm super thankful for. But there was pressure coming from different sources. And a hesitation that I had was that fear of not being prepared, not having enough time. Despite the countless hours of studying, any free time I had was fixated on the exam. I started visualizing the exam, what I would wear, eat, what I would do the night before. But really putting myself in that space helped me reduce the test anxiety and the fear that I had initially coming in.
Yes. So the self doubt, the fear of failure, the fear of doing all of this studying and still not being prepared, um, that made you okay. So, how did you get over that? How did you get over that mental block?
I think having someone like you, Dale, who you have a lot.
Don't tell them that now. I
That
promise
was
you
a
were
that
like,
was a
I
secret
know.
little weapon. It really was for me. I think everyone has a different, everyone has their own ways of doing things. I think having someone to hold me accountable, and who's gone through the process was a huge, huge factor for me.
I mean, I promise you guys, I didn't tell her to say this. It's like I'm laughing because in reality, at the end of the day, Elizabeth is saying that having that somebody to egg you on and coach you and, like she said, hold you accountable. So you said you wanted this, and I remember, remind me, like, Elizabeth, there was a point in time, like I think it was halfway when we did a session and you were getting like most of the questions were you were getting them wrong, and I was like, I don't know. And you were like, I don't know. And then really, I mean, and to be honest with you, you left that session, and I try to encourage and kind of shift the perspective and make it positive. But I know that what I say and how you take it and how you respond and how you apply it had a lot to do with it, right? Because I can say you can have somebody, a teacher, a trainer, a coach, a mentor kind of egging you on as much, and they can say all the words, but are you going to be that? Are you going to be teachable?
Yeah, I think we had this conversation with the first session. I was like, I grew up an athlete, so I need someone to hold me accountable and push me. And the way that you were able to just adapt to my style of learning, and it was really, that was just my psychology of like not wanting to let anyone down. And obviously would go back to myself. I'm doing this for me. I'm the one that invested, but having that other person who was also invested in my growth and what I was learning was huge.
100%. I am going. So you said me, but I'm gonna say you because it's the information. Once I gave you, because I just reminded you, hey, you said you wanted to do this, and this is what we hold. What this is what we said that we're gonna do in the beginning. Here's the plan that we develop. Here's bi-weekly, what every week what we're gonna follow and what we're gonna do. We agreed to this together. I'm going to do my part and this is what I'm going to do. Now, this is your part, right? And this is what you're going to do. So we got to be responsible for each other, right? And then leave it at that, right? So what you do with that information now, because you leave the session, what you do when you leave the session is the other part of it, right? Because now you don't have somebody in your ear for that hour or two. Now you have, most of your day at work, at home. So you
But
have to egg your own way.
I knew once I saw you the next week, I was like, I got to know my stuff. Like, I cannot go into our tutoring session not knowing anything.
Because then that's, I'm like, I'm wasting my own money. And
Mhm.
this is not what we do. So that goes back to your why. That's, I mean, from my understanding, your why, right? You wanted to have something to that will take you to the next, right? And you said your psychology as it relates to, coach and athlete, that's something that kind of fed to you and you connect with that. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think finding that inner motivation, sometimes comes down to like mind over matter. And there were a lot of moments where I did not want to study, but I knew that, this period of my time was so short term compared to the rest of my life. And investing that time into myself was huge. I knew it would pay off. Um, but yeah, that's just sort of how I think in terms of growing up in sports and wanting to quit and knowing that, you know, your team and everyone is counting on you, but also you want to prove it to yourself that you can do it.
So there, I am gonna put these quotes on here as it relates to the why that um from Simon Sinek. We were talking about this before we came on here. And for all those that don't know, Simon Sinek is a motivation, inspirational um, coach, mentor, teacher, and he talks about your why. And he talks about everything that you do should start with your why. So one of the quotes here says, when we know why we do what we do, everything falls into place. When we don't know, we have to push it into place. We have to push things into place. So if you don't understand, if Elizabeth did not understand her internal motivation that fueled her why, right? She couldn't have even decided to reach out and to do this. She had something bigger than herself, right? So it just fell into play. All right, now that this is what is important to me and I want to do this, now I got to do this and I'm going to do this, and it was a flow, right? When you're in flowing in meditation kind of mode, now that flow is afoot, she didn't have to force things. She didn't have to. She said earlier that eh, she, even though she didn't feel like getting up every single day and studying or even coming to the sessions and looking at my face, the real push was her why, right?
And it was always worth it afterwards. After I saw you and you poured into me, I felt so much better every time.
Every time I felt even better myself, right? Because you talk to I always say this on here, that your energy is important. Your energy, everything is energy, and people that you are around are energies. So when you finish leaving the company or the people that you're interacting with, how do you feel? Do you feel like, all right, I can do this, let's go? Or do you feel, oh man, he just took all my energy, I don't even want to go back there? You feel drained. And if you assess that every single time you encounter friends, family, people you talk to, it don't matter. See how you feel once you finish talking with them. Is that going to add to you? See how you feel, or is it taking away from you? And then if it's taking away from you, then you have to do the hard thing. Either take it or keep doing it. Right? Elizabeth is
That's
shaking her
tough.
head.
Those
So,
were those were tough moments for sure.
yeah, 100%. The other quote says, happiness comes from what we do. Fulfillment comes from why we do it. So if you're at a job and you're just going through the motions and you're just clocking the clock to get that check, I'm gonna say this, and it's not popular, but you are wasting your time because you're not living in fulfillment. Let's say you started that job at 25 years old, now you are 50, now you are 60 years old. If that's what you're doing at work, how does the rest of your life look like? What do you think about that, Elizabeth? I know you've been there for a
I
little bit.
There were a lot of things that I've learned about myself and how I want my career to look during this journey. Being in the field while I'm learning best practices, talking to other HR professionals like yourself, and troubleshooting the SHRM concept completely changed my perspective. It allowed me to apply in real time the SHRM way to my day to
Yeah,
day. And
yeah.
if folks can, I recommend uh, this because it's a significant career shift, and it really gave me a new motivation and a new appreciation for my role, which added to my purpose. There was ways that I was thinking, how can I use HR and this credential in the future in ways that may not be, the typical HR path. Um, so that's been a huge thing that I'm working on and thinking about, and it's very exciting.
Say that again.
It's exciting, which is so funny because 6 months ago I was like calling you stressed out. I mean, it's tough, but we got through it.
Yeah, yeah, we did. We did. And the thing about it is that it would have been, oh, that's sad that you would have succumbed to it, right? And you would have like given up and you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm too scared of this test. Even though we are halfway there, Dr. Dale, I'm done. Like, I'm not even gonna take the test. Let's just forget about all of this. And I would have been like, what?
Yeah. The imposter syndrome is strong. And that's another, emotional intelligence thing that we have to work through. Why do I feel like I'm not deserving? Why do I feel like, it's not enough? And really unpacking it. Um, Again, mind over matter.
What's the word? Remember, I asked you to pick a word and then let's use that word or sentence. I think it was one day when you had called, you were kind of not in the right headspace, and said, "What's your word?" Remember that? What was your word? Was it self? Was it self? What was it? It was a word or a sentence. I asked you to get, and you're like, I'm like, use that word and let that be your empowerment. Every time you
Oh,
hear it,
okay. It was I deserve this.
ah,
I deserve it. I earned it.
yes, 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 right? Because then you are overcoming yourself. I think the hardest person that we have to kind of not beat down, but the challenge is ourselves.
Yeah.
Would you agree with
I
that?
100% agree. I was really battling with myself majority of the time. I put in the hours. I was working I'm working in the role, all the things I'm applying in real time. And I still felt like, what if no, 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 don't second guess yourself. And that was another thing when we would take the practice quizzes and I would get answers wrong that I knew. And
Yes.
I had to ask myself, like, why don't you trust yourself?
Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
emotional intelligence that we have to break down. Why don't I trust myself enough to go with my gut?
And that the emotional intelligence concept that she's specifically highlighting is self-awareness, understanding who you are, your triggers, why you think that way, why you're the behaviors, because the thoughts influence your behavior influence your actions, and then here we are, destiny, right? That becomes your destiny. So what triggered that? What caused it? And then go in skin deep and not just say, oh, okay, I'll get over it. No, 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 no. If you know you can't just, even though you may say it with your words, your actions and your behaviors is gonna overcome you, and you wouldn't even know when I said in the beginning of this conversation that 2025 came in kicking and screaming, even though as someone that is, I go hard in and I just love me some emotional intelligence, I had some hard days, like with family and friends, and I had to kind of like grapple and come to grips with myself. And it's like, why did you let that trigger you? Well, because the ones closest to you, they know your weakness. So my sister, I talked to her last night, and she's like, once you can overcome your family, that means you can overcome yourself, because there's something in them, in me, that it comes natural to me, right? So I feed into it. What is it that is coming natural to you that is not a positive habit that you need to overcome, right? What does that look like?
It's definitely self-doubt. Um, and that's something that I think we go through all throughout our careers where it's like, am I deserving of this raise? Should I apply for this
Mm,
position? Should I just, stick with what they're offering me or should I ask for more? Self-doubt, self-worth, how we view ourselves. Am I a person that passes the SHRM exam? Can I beat this? That was huge. And I felt like it was a lot of uh manifesting, like which
faith.
path do I want to be on? Do I want to stay over here or do I want to move up? That was a lot. Studying and then those were equally very hard for me. Because I've
Yeah.
never done something like this before, and it was a lot of time. The last time I studied was in school,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was a long time ago, and now you're putting in a lot of time into learning something new and how they want you to answer. So it can be a bit daunting, but you just got to trust yourself, and we did it.
Yes, we did it. And trust yourself, and that you can overcome it, right? That you can stand tall on your story and not in your story all the time, right? It's okay to come down and kind of talk about what that process looked like for you, but knowing that you have overcome it allows you to stand on your story, right? That this wasn't something, oh, I didn't let that beat me, right? I really overcame that. I challenged myself. I put that goal for myself, and bam, I reached it, right? So I have a question for you. When do you, because at some point in time in your life, way before this test came up, you said that you weren't going to be, that you think that you were, even though you had those self doubt, did you feel like you were meant for more? Like somewhere somebody said something and you just like you love to learn, you love to grow, you want to level up. What was that, or who was that that said that thing to you that made you think that you could do blank?
I think it's the matriarchs in my life, and we've had this conversation too, where I'd be so stressed out, and I'd be like, "Wait, this is self-inflicting. I'm putting myself through this. I'm doing the studying. I'm gonna take the exam, but it's really hard." And you'd be like, "Yep, we're doing it because we know we can, and we're, we're destined for more." But it was really, I know I need to, because that's what I'm meant to do. I know I need to move up and elevate, and it's hard. And if it was easy, everyone would do it. But yeah, I think it's the women in my life, grandmothers, mothers, um, that really pushed me always to want more, and or at least excel in what I'm doing. And yeah, there were so many moments where you and I, Dale, would talk and be like, "You're doing this for yourself. You are putting yourself through this, so you might as well." It's hard, but it's worth it.
It's always worth it. And I say this on here all the time. When I was doing my DBA, every, I think 3 or 4 times a month when I was studying, I wanted to quit. And everybody that knows me personally, I would call and I said, just tell me. I felt like I needed a permission to
Hmm.
quit. And I was
Yeah,
looking for permission. Did that happen for you at any point?
there were so many times I felt like giving up. And I would call my sisters, I'm like, "I don't know." And like, "Girl, if you already put in the time, the money, you know, get through it. This is just a
Yeah.
small portion of your life, and it's going to be so worth it." And the advantage that it's not just about the credential, but the toolbox and strategies that I've taken from it is just going to propel me in leadership roles and positions, and it's worth it.
A
It's
hundred
worth the
percent.
stress.
It's the stress that you put on yourself, but when you look back, you're so thankful, right? You're so thankful that you put yourself through it. You challenge yourself in that way. And I say this quote all the time on here as well, is that during that during that exam process, apart from achieving it, way before you achieved it, you were growing. Because remember who you were way before we had a conversation, and your thought process or your mindset, right? And where you are now. You're like, man, I did cry a lot, man. I complained a lot. I mean that's what it was for me. Was that what it was for you?
Yeah, and I think it's part of the process because that means we care. Like I spent
Yeah.
half a year stressing about the exam before I even opened a book, before I booked the exam itself. It was just that buildup of, oh my goodness, once I start, I'm really holding myself accountable and to the standard of you need to pass.
Yeah.
But I mean, to anyone feeling overwhelmed, I think just opening up the book or going on the SHRM site, just making that first step to let me see. That's really, um, yeah, just getting that stepping stone.
So the quote I'm talking about is says, of all the knowledge you will attain in your lifetime, knowing yourself is is the highest achievement, is your greatest achievement you can ever achieve. Knowing yourself. Any challenge that you put yourself through, when you come out on the other end, you are not the same person. You leveled up differently, you understand things differently. And now I'm like, okay, I know every single time I have to do something that I've never done before, I start to procrastinate or something I don't want to do. I procrastinate, but I like every single time I overcome it and I get the goal that I achieved that I wanted, I'm happy and I loved it and I love the feeling. So that means let me put some measures in place so that I wait every single time I go into this goal, I do these things that will make sure I stay on track. You mentioned visualizing because we did that. You mentioned apart from visualizing, you said talking it out, getting your thoughts out, doing some meditation, doing some I am messages, to yourself. What else? What else worked for you?
Really talking to myself, like you said, that was huge. Asking myself, why are you scared, or why do you feel like you aren't prepared? And then really tackling those things. Um, I think once I got into the groove of my schedule and studying, and huge part is discipline. But like you said, I've
Mm.
learned a lot about myself, and I know that I'm capable of making sacrifices for my goals. And I really learned how to trust myself. I trust myself a lot after this whole experience because it was a lot of time that you have to put aside to study. And there was a piece of me that was like, am I going to procrastinate? It's like, you should trust yourself enough to know that if you set a goal and you stick to it, that's how it's going to be. But yeah, I trust myself a lot more after that.
Good, good. And I do. I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that logic 100% because it was the same for me. Um, and no, making sure that you said stick with it, discipline yourself, right? Just because you never done it before does not mean you can't do it. You can do it. Trust yourself. Bet on yourself. You go to work every day and you trust that in 2 weeks or in a week that check is gonna go to your account. How about you use that same logic on yourself and trust that if you invest in yourself, that you're going to reap the benefits of it. And like Elizabeth and myself, you won't regret it. You won't regret it. So, the last point that we have here is I love this one. You can't grasp it until you lived it. What do you mean by that?
Can't grasp it until you've lived it. I mean, I think it's a combination of everything that we spoke about today. All of the feelings and the barriers that I think I was going through while I was on this journey. Looking back, I know that if there was a similar scenario, or something that I'm gonna have to have a lot of discipline in, even when life throws curveballs at me, I know I
Yeah.
can get through it.
Yep.
And 6 months ago, I'd be like, no, I can't, because I would ask for permission to give up. Like, guys, I think this is good enough. I would ask you, I think this is a good enough reason to take a break. And you would say, you have 2 days to feel all your feelings, and then we need to get back to it.
You just mimic me and it kind of sounded like me for a little.
You would really be like, I'm gonna give you like 2 days. 3, you would say like 3 at the max, but after that, get back into the groove. And that was, I gave myself permission to not think about the exam, not think about that stress. But I knew if I wanted to complete this, we already set the date, the window for the exam. I had to get back to it. And again, that's something I did not think I'd be able to do.
Yeah. So when because I've learned throughout my journey, right, that sometimes we don't, sometimes a lot of times, and I think women suffer from this quite a bit, is that we don't give ourselves permission to take a break. to feel the feeling that, because we're in a world, they say we're in a man's world. We're in a world that constantly tells us that our feelings and how we see things, our perspective is not validated, right? So we don't feel like, so we feel like we shouldn't even mention, we shouldn't even address it, we shouldn't even acknowledge it, we shouldn't even feel. So, no, that was 2024 stuff. Everything that happened in 2020, everything that's bad, I'm throwing it to 2024. Let's just get rid of all of that. Get rid of all that. So that was 2024 mindset. We're not doing that anymore, right? You have a goal. You can have tough days, but you can't have tough days every day, because then you'll never reach your goal.
Right.
Tough days can't be every day, right? Tough days meaning okay, I'm gonna put a pencil in it, and I'm gonna put a pencil in it till 3 o'clock today. I'm gonna sit here and watch, because this is what I do. Sometimes when I just don't want to do something, I was like, okay, I'm gonna reward myself until 3 o'clock this afternoon and watch some Netflix. And then after 3 o'clock, game is over.
Right. Get back to it.
Get back to it, right? That's how my psyche works. And that's what I had to do to keep myself doing a little bit at a time. Again, the same logic behind eating the elephant a piece at a time. That elephant is too big. You can't eat that elephant all at once. Plus, you got to leave some food for tomorrow. Right? The elephant, you can just, the most you can probably do is eat half of one of his ears, or a portion of his ears, or his nose, or something like that, right? Part of it, but you cannot. You have to leave it for the next day, and the next day, and the next day, because guess what? What did Les Brown say? What did he say? He said, "Oh, we're always in three stages. People, life, we're always in three stages. We're either in a problem right now, we're coming out of one, or we're about to go into one."
Mm.
So right now, I'm coming out of one. Me, that's where I'm at. Where are you, Elizabeth?
Hmm. I think I'm coming out of one too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and no doubt, we're probably somewhere in the next couple of days, a month, about to go into another one, or meaning about to put myself under another challenge. I have to, after this, in a week, I have a deadline that I have to meet no matter what. And 3 months from now, I have another deadline for myself that I have to meet no matter what. I'm going to put in the time that I need to put in, because I set that deadline for myself, right? And I have already partnered with people that are going to make sure I held accountable, because I can't do it alone. And that's what Elizabeth was saying. Things we just can't do alone. We didn't, we need someone to hold us accountable in a positive way, right? Just go up, right, for that next step. The point that Elizabeth had here, you can't grasp it until you lived it. Once you lived it, oh, and you obtain that knowledge and that understanding and that education, nobody can take that away from you. Nobody. Like, you, that's yours. That's all yours. And you ate that up, and that's yours. So now that she's lived it, she's owned it, and she's walking and lifting her head up high, because she knows what it took to get it. Any thoughts there, Elizabeth, before we move on?
I just love opportunities where I can gain perspective, and then pass it on to someone else or whoever is going to be, going through this journey. Opportunities where we have perspective, we grow and we learn so much, and I love
Yeah,
that.
I'm there with you. And someone, I have and I talk about my husband on here all the time. He's like, "Why do you always bring me?" I'm like, "Because you are my greatest teacher." Husband says a lot. He has a perspective, a mindset that is completely different from mine's. He sees the business world, he sees things, economics, like he sees things, and I was like, that's not something that, but I'm learning more and more that the different perspective add, right? So once, now that you have this knowledge and this understanding, this certification, now you can take that wherever you go. And you mentioned earlier in this conversation, you saw that SHRM certification and the different competencies that you have learned, you can take that into your next job, your next endeavor, and not only professionally, but personally, right? Personally, you can take that with you and share that with somebody else and pay it forward, right? Pay it forward. Um, Elizabeth, what's one advice would you give to those who have are thinking about passing the SHRM and are considering should they even sign up for SHRM? Maybe not SHRM, maybe it's PHR, whatever it is, that certification look like. What is one or two advice you would give them to kind of get them started to move in that direction and finally take action?
I think it goes back to the elephant analogy of just taking that first bite, putting one foot in front of the other, but also network. Speak to people who have been through something that you're about to go into. That was huge for me, learning all the different perspectives and experiences, and knowing that most of what I went through is not something that's unique. Someone else has gone through it before. Network and just taking that first bite, put one foot in front of the other, crack open the book, doing your research, and, you know, just trying.
So I'll give you guys an action item because I'm all about you got to take action. A call to action for you is if you're considering taking the HR certification, whatever certification, whether it doesn't have to be HR, it can be anything, financial, marketing, whatever certification that's in your industry, I would say figure out figure out an association that you take this certification and they have chapters. Join a chapter as a member. Some of these chapters are free, some are not. It's probably minimal, less than $50, less than $30 per year. Join the chapter and start, when she said networking, start talking to the people that are doing what you want to do. And Elizabeth mentioned that, right? Start getting in conversations and seeing the opportunities. Because I'll tell you, I joined the SMA, the Staffing Management, another HR chapter a couple years ago, and now, and I think I'd mentioned this to you, Elizabeth, that I had them. We're in a group. That chapter, the board members is like 5 or 6 of us. We I have them in a WhatsApp group and we bounce ideas off of each other. And that was years ago. And they're in HR as well. So that's an opportunity. That's a resource that I have within, me, they feeding into me and I'm feeding into them. And that's how we help each other. So you don't know what the outcome is going to be once you form bonds and connections, especially within your professional setting and personal setting, then, walk towards that.
Yeah, being a part of a network of professionals in the area is a huge advantage. The certification will get you through the door, but it's up to you to use it to your advantage.
Ooh, that's how you go. That's what you gonna tell them. You're like, yeah, you could get the certification, but what do you do with it? So that's the next thing, right? So what's next for you now that you have your certification? What does that next look like? What doors do you see for yourself, Elizabeth?
Hmm. Um, I think the certification gives me freedom to pivot. So I'm not,
Mm,
I'm feeling very comfortable and like secure in my career now. And I love that.
yes, I love the sound of that. So countless opportunities, doors open up. So that means that you're not giving when they see your resume and they are not going to tell you no because you have the experience, you have the certification, and you have the capabilities. You have all of those competencies, right? So that's one of the reasons. I think I told this to somebody else that asked me about HR, uh, was that I didn't want nobody to tell me no. I got tired of hearing no. When I was trying to break into HR, folks, um, I didn't have the experience, but I'm like, how can I get the experience if you lovely people don't give it to me?
Mm.
Right? So, and I got tired of hearing no after no after no, and then finally I got a break, and then I used that, and I said, I will make sure if I can help the next person coming behind that wants to be a part of this industry, I'm going to make sure I pull them, bring them with me, right? And that's what it's all about. So now Elizabeth has the certification, right? Doors, opportunities, or her the instead of it being slim, it's a little wider, a little wider. And she said she gets to choose. She gets to choose, right? So Elizabeth, do you want to leave them with? Let me see what we have here. I think someone said, "Oh, we have a comment here." Aw.
That's sweet. Thank you.
So, what quote do you want to leave the lovely audience with that will keep them inspired after this conversation?
Hmm. Well, the comment from Woodland, who's my girl, my best friend, just reminded me of how important it is to have a network of peers that are, pushing themselves in their own industry and motivate you. So I love that. So thank you, Lynn, for the nice comment. But a quote that I have is from my favorite poet, Maya Angelou, which is, "My wish for you is that you continue to be who you are and how you are."
Mm, I received that, and I hope each and every single one of you received that. So, this has been a conversation with the amazing Elizabeth, leaving us her gems on why you should be an HR's champion, an HR warrior in 2025, and let your story, all of who you are, is where you are. So let's just exit with that. That's it. I got nothing else for you guys. I'll see you guys next week back here on A Glimpse of Growth with Dr. Dale. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here and supporting this channel. If you enjoyed this episode and this content, it would mean a lot to me if you would take a few seconds to ensure you are subscribed to A Glimpse of Growth with Dr. Dale. Click the notification bell to receive notification. Share it with someone you think may need it. And let's continue to become more intelligent with our emotions. Thank you. See you later.